The Zorvan Empire had never known fear like this. They had conquered planets, enslaved species, and crushed entire civilizations under their rule. But they never thought it would come to this. They never imagined that the very humans they had destroyed would return to bring the flames of their own past. Now the flames were reaching their final target, Zovar Prime. Zovar Prime was not just the capital of the Empire. It was the beating heart of Zorvan power, where the ruling council lived, where the fleets were built, where the blood of the Empire flowed. If the humans reached Zovar Prime, the war would be over. On the Retribution, Commander Mira Talon stood on the bridge, staring out at the glowing blue planet that loomed ahead. Zovar Prime, she whispered, as if testing the words, the heart of their empire. Her officer, Lieutenant Korin, approached. The fleet is ready, Commander. All ships are in position. Mira nodded, her eyes cold with purpose. No mercy. The Zorvans took everything from us. Now we take it all from them. They had already struck 7 worlds. Each one burned for a reason. A memory of pain, a cry for justice. The Zorvans had made their decision years ago. They had silenced the humans. Now, the humans would silence them. On Zovar Prime, the council gathered in their grand chamber, watching the skies. They had received word of the human fleet's arrival. Panic filled the room as the council members shouted over each other. Activate all defenses. Order the fleet to mobilize. The humans are too close. We can't stop them. For the first time in their history, the Zorvans were losing control. Councillor Threx, who had once spoken of peace, stood quietly at the back. It's too late, he said. They are here, and we cannot stop them. Admiral Gorin turned on him, his eyes filled with anger. You gave them hope. You gave them strength. Now, we pay for it. Threx didn't answer. He had no words left. The truth was clear. The Zorvans had destroyed Earth. They had erased the humans from the galaxy. And now, those same humans had returned to make them feel that pain. The first human ship, a destroyer called the Phoenix, entered Zovar Prime's orbit. It was the largest ship in the fleet, its black hull gleaming in the light of the planet's twin suns. Mira Talon's voice echoed through the comm system. We are not here to conquer. We are here to balance. We are here to give you what you deserve. Zorvan defenses locked onto the Phoenix, firing their weapons, but it was no use. The human shields absorbed the fire without a scratch. Then the Phoenix fired back. A single shot from its main cannon cut through the Zorvan shields like paper, and the Zorvan flagship, the Sovereign, was torn apart in a flash of light. It exploded in space, debris scattering in all directions. The Zorvan fleet scrambled. But the humans were too fast. Their ships moved with precision, cutting down Zorvan vessels one after another. Each attack was clean, direct, and unforgiving. On the surface of Zovar Prime, the Zorvan military tried to rally. They activated the planet's last line of defense, an underground weapon known as the Core. It was an energy weapon powerful enough to obliterate an entire fleet. They believed it could turn the tide. But when they fired, it was not aimed at the human fleet. It was aimed at the Retribution. The blast hit the Retribution, knocking out its shields. For a moment, it seemed the humans might falter. But Commander Mira Talon wasn't done. Prepare for the final strike, Torres ordered. We're going after Kaiser. Her crew worked with efficiency, guiding the ship closer and closer to the heart of the battle. The Varlock loomed ahead, its massive guns trained on their position. It was time to end this. As the Resolute closed in on the Varlock, Kaiser saw them. His hands gripped the controls of his flagship as he prepared for one last stand. The humans would not defeat him. Not now. Not ever. But even as he spoke, something changed. The Cythera ships, once silent, now began to move, faster, more aggressively. Their massive energy beams flashed across the battlefield, obliterating Krill ships with terrifying efficiency. Kaiser's eyes widened in disbelief. What are they doing? He demanded. They've betrayed us. One of his officers shouted in horror, "The Cythera are attacking us." The realization hit Kezer like a physical blow. The Cythera, who had promised to aid them, had turned against him. His fleet was now surrounded on all sides. On the Resolute, General Torres watched as the Cythera attacked the Krill from behind. That Karn had taken the front, and the humans were flanking from the sides. The final battle had begun. "Now focus on the Varlock," Torres said firmly. "All ships, fire at will." The Resolute fired its main guns, sending a volley of energy blasts toward the Varlock. The Krill flagship shuddered under the attack, but it remained intact, barely. Kezer's fury was unmatched, but the weight of defeat began to crush him. His fleet was falling apart. His allies had betrayed him, and the humans, who he had once underestimated, were the last force standing. And then, with one final blow, the Varlock exploded in a burst of fire and light. Kezer's ship was gone. The battle was over. The Krill Empire had fallen. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of humanity, and with it, the dawning of a new age. On Earth, General Torres stood before her fleet, the stars reflecting in her eyes. The galaxy was theirs now. They had proven that humanity was no longer weak. "Let this be a warning," Torres said to her crew, her voice carrying across the ships. "We are not the prey. We are the hunters now." For many years, the aliens ruled over Earth. They came with giant ships, powerful weapons, and no mercy. The humans fought back in the beginning, but their weapons were too weak. The alien alliance, called the Zorvans, burned cities, captured leaders, and took Earth's resources. Humans were treated like insects, but even after losing so much, humans still tried to talk. They sent messages of peace, asking for mercy, asking to live free. The Zorvans never listened. Then, one day, Earth went silent. No human ships, no messages, no movement. The sky above Earth was empty. No energy readings, no defense systems. Even the satellites were gone. The alien leaders were confused. Some laughed. Others were careful, but none understood what really happened. To find answers, the Zorvans sent a scout ship, the Emberlight, led by Commander Trevak. He had fought humans for over 20 years and called them weak. "They always cry," he told his crew. "They always beg." When the Emberlight reached Earth, everything was still. Cities stood, but they looked like ghosts. No lights, no sounds, no people. There were no signs of battle, no smoke, no blood, just quiet. Trevak walked through the empty streets of New York. The wind blew dust through the tall buildings. A broken human toy lay on the ground, untouched. They ran. One of the soldiers said, "Maybe they finally gave up." "No," Trevak said. "They're hiding. Somewhere deep, maybe underground." They scanned every building, every signal. Nothing. Then one of the soldiers found something strange. A satellite orbiting Earth had a large message carved into its metal body. It wasn't a distress call. It was a warning. The message said, "You started this war. We asked for peace. You gave us pain. Now, we answer." Trevak stared at the words. For the first time in years, he felt something new, something cold. "Fear. Get us off this planet," he ordered. "Now." The crew rushed back to their ship, but as they left Earth's orbit, something happened. All their systems shut down. Radar, communication, engines. Then, far above the Earth, they saw something no alien had seen before. A fleet. Hundreds of ships, black and silent, appeared from the darkness of space. They had no markings, no lights, and no sound. They didn't match any known human designs. They were newer, stronger, scarier. "These aren't the old Earth ships," a pilot whispered. "These are something else." The alien crew tried to call for help. No signal went through. It was like the galaxy had turned its back on them. Suddenly, one of the human ships powered up. Its front weapon glowed red. Trevak yelled, "Evasive maneuvers." But it was too late. A red beam cut through space, striking one of the scout ships. It exploded without a sound. Fire and metal scattered into the stars. Then another human ship fired, and another. In seconds, 3 Zorvan ships were gone. Trevak's ship ran. He didn't care about honor anymore. He didn't care about orders. He just wanted to survive. Somehow, the Emberlight escaped. It returned to the Zorvan command base on the moon of Frelos. Trevak stood before the High Council, shaking. "They're not the same anymore," he said. "The humans, they disappeared for a reason. They didn't give up." He looked at the alien leaders and added, "They were preparing." The council laughed. But days later, more Zorvan fleets started to vanish. Outposts went dark. Colonies stopped responding. Trade ships never arrived. Each time, the only sign left behind was the same message. Now we answer. The galaxy, once full of prideful conquerors, began to whisper a new fear. What if the humans didn't disappear? What if they evolved? The stars were quiet. Peace had lasted for nearly 15 years. Humans had signed a treaty with the powerful Krill Empire, one of the strongest alien empires in the galaxy. That peace had allowed trade, learning, and exploration. People believed war was over. They were wrong. The Earth vessel Unity, a large science and trade ship, was returning from a mission near the edge of Krill space. It carried over 300 crew members, scientists, diplomats, and engineers. It had no weapons. It didn't need them. The treaty made sure Krill ships never attacked. But peace is just a word, and some words are easy to break. Without warning, 3 Krill warships appeared from hyperspace. No message, no reason, no chance. "Captain," the officer whispered on the bridge. "They're locking weapons." Captain Elena Rhodes stood frozen for a second. She didn't want to believe it. "Open hailing channels. Tell them we're." Before she could finish, the first plasma blast hit the side of Unity. Screams, fire, alarms. The Krill ships didn't wait. They fired again and again, ripping through the unarmed vessel like it was paper. Lifeboats tried to launch, but most were destroyed before they left the hull. One tiny escape pod made it out, hidden, unnoticed. It carried no people, only data. A black box, recording everything. The Krill ships left just as fast as they arrived. No words, no survivors. Back on Earth, in the secure chamber of the United Earth Council, the black box message played on a large screen. Everyone watched in silence as the last moments of Unity flashed across the screen. The screams, the lights going dark. The sound of a captain trying to warn the enemy before her voice was cut off by fire. When it ended, no one spoke. Finally, General Mayatori stood. "This was an unprovoked attack," she said, her voice low and steady. "They broke the treaty. They committed mass murder. And they didn't even try to hide it." President Okoye leaned forward. "We must call a council with the other galactic races. Demand answers." But General Tori shook her head. "By the time we finish talking, they'll strike again. We can't just respond. We must prepare." Far away in Krill space, the Emperor of the Krill Empire, Zevrak V, sat in his war throne. His advisors praised the destruction of the human ship. One vessel down, one hissed. "They are weak. They will beg for peace." Zevrak smiled, showing his sharp yellow teeth. "Let them beg. They grew too confident. It is time they remember their place." They didn't know Earth wasn't planning to beg, or talk, or run. Earth was already moving. In a hidden bunker deep under the Andes Mountains, Project Ember was activated. Dark halls lit up. Computers came online. Silent soldiers stepped out of shadows. These weren't regular troops. These were specialists, trained in secret for years. Cyber experts, engineers, stealth pilots, war planners. No speeches, no banners, just action. Earth had always hoped for peace, but they had quietly prepared for war, just in case. Begin silent operations, Torres ordered. We don't strike yet. We watch, we learn, and we hit when it hurts. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news of the attack spread. Some alien races were shocked. Others pretended to be surprised but were glad the humans were put in their place. Many believed humanity would surrender. Humans were always too soft, said one news anchor on a Harkari broadcast. They do not have the spirit to fight the Krill. They'll ask for peace, said another, and the Krill will crush them again. But not everyone was so sure. In a mining colony on the moon of Vetra, an old alien trader whispered to his young apprentice, "Don't count the humans out so fast. I've seen what they can do when they've had enough." The apprentice blinked, but they lost. The old trader nodded. "Yes, and that's why I'm afraid." Back on Earth, in a cold room filled with silent screens, an AI system mapped Krill fleet movements. It tracked trade routes, weapon factories, supply lines. A digital voice spoke softly. Targets marked. Timing optimized. Awaiting activation. General Torres stared at the screen, her eyes hard. "They think we're weak," she said quietly. "Let them keep thinking that. They'll regret it." The galaxy was changing, and fast. The Zorvan Empire, once feared across the stars, was now quiet. Its trade lanes were broken, its war fleets were damaged, and its leaders were afraid to speak. But what scared them most wasn't just the attacks. It was who was attacking. The ships were human, but different. The weapons were faster. The technology was smarter. The attacks were perfectly timed, like the enemy knew every weak point. The Zorvans had fought humans before. They remembered their old ships, their slow systems, their desperate cries for peace. But now, the new humans didn't beg. They didn't run. They struck and vanished. Some Zorvan leaders still didn't believe it. "They're just rebels," said High General Varn. "Cowards with stolen ships." But that lie didn't last long. One of the outer colonies, Trellis 4, was home to an old human prison camp. It was built by the Zorvans 20 years ago to break the last fighters from Earth. The Zorvans believed those humans had all died long ago. They were wrong. Late one night, alarms screamed across the colony. Unknown ships dropped from hyperspace, fast and silent. The guards rushed to their guns, but the colony's defense systems had already been hacked. Within seconds, the outer gates exploded. What came next shocked the galaxy. The black human ships didn't just destroy the colony. They landed. Troops in dark armor marched through the fire, carrying plasma rifles and energy shields. They didn't speak. They didn't stop. They freed every prisoner, not just humans, but even alien slaves who had been forgotten for years. A single Zorvan officer survived. He was later found in an escape pod, shaking, whispering the same words again and again. "They walk like ghosts, but fight like gods." The footage from the battle was leaked across the galaxy. Every world saw it. A new human leader stood on screen. She wore a long black coat, her eyes sharp and cold. Her voice was calm, but strong. Her name was Commander Mira Talon, and her message was clear. "We asked for peace. You gave us chains. We asked for mercy. You gave us pain. So now we bring justice. This is not revenge. This is balance. We are not what we were. We are what you made us." Then the screen cut to black. The galaxy trembled. Old enemies now carried new power, and everyone knew it. On a secret Zorvan research base, hidden deep inside a red nebula, scientists had been studying the new human technology. What they found shocked them. "This isn't just upgraded Earth tech," one of them said. "This is something else." "Where did they get it?" asked Admiral Goren. The answer came from a quiet researcher. "They didn't find it. They built it." He explained. After Earth went silent, humans didn't hide in fear. They escaped past the outer rim, beyond known space. There, they formed a new alliance, an independent force of exiled scientists, engineers, and soldiers. They built new machines, smarter AIs, advanced armor, weapons that used gravity itself. They weren't part of the old human governments anymore. They were something new, something dangerous. The Zorvans called them the Forgotten. But they called themselves the New Terran Order. And they were not alone. Rumors spread that other alien races, once slaves under Zorvan rule, had joined them. Small species, quiet voices, all ready to follow the humans who once asked for peace and were broken for it. Now, they followed humans into war. In a command room aboard the human ship Retribution, Commander Mira looked over a star map. Her officer spoke. They're preparing to fight. Their biggest fleet is gathering near Varnus Prime. Mira didn't flinch. Let them. She placed her hand on the table, where old photos of ruined Earth cities were displayed. We offered peace. For years, they spit on it. She turned to her team. This time, we don't ask. The team nodded. And far away, on every Zorvan screen, the message appeared again. Simple, silent, deadly. We remember. Back aboard the Retribution, Mira received a message. It was from Counselor Threx, the Zorvan who had tried to speak of peace. His message was simple. I do not ask for forgiveness. I only ask you to remember us as we were, before we became monsters. Mira stared at the screen, her face unreadable. Send a reply, she ordered. Tell him, the past is gone. We are what we are now. And the galaxy is forever changed. On a quiet moon in a distant star system, a group of exiled humans gathered around a campfire. They were survivors, children, old men, warriors, and dreamers, all who had escaped the fall of Earth. They had no ships, no armies, but they had each other, and they had the memory of what they had lost. They told stories of Earth, of the oceans, the skies, the trees. They spoke of the world they could never return to, and they dreamed of rebuilding. One of the children, no older than 10, asked, "Will we ever see Earth again?" The elders were silent. They didn't know. The galaxy was vast, and Earth was gone. But in their hearts, they held the truth. Earth was not a place. Earth was a memory. And as long as they remembered, it would live on. As the Retribution drifted through the dark of space, Mira Talon stood alone on the bridge, looking out at the stars. The galaxy had changed. The Zorvans were defeated, their empire shattered. But there was still much work to be done. Humanity had learned to survive. They had learned to fight. But most importantly, they had learned to remember. The past could not be erased. The scars would remain. But humanity had risen from the ashes, and their message was clear. The galaxy would never forget the humans. And the humans would never forget Earth. The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. For humanity, the battle had been one of survival, vengeance, and ultimately, rebirth. They had fought back from the edge of extinction and struck at the heart of the empire that had erased them from the stars. The Zorvans had paid the price for their cruelty, and the galaxy would never forget the cost. But now, in the silence that followed the storm, the humans faced a new challenge. What comes after war? What comes after the fire? Mira Talon stood on the command deck of the Retribution, gazing out at the endless void of space. The stars, once a distant dream, now felt like a reminder of everything humanity had lost and everything they had reclaimed. Around her, the crew moved quietly. The battle was over, but the scars remained. The Retribution was battered, its hull scarred from countless battles, but it still flew. It still carried humanity's hope. "We've won, Commander," Corrin said softly, as he stepped up beside her. "But what now?" Mira looked at him, her expression hardening. "Now we rebuild." The galaxy had seen humanity's wrath, but it had also seen their resilience. It had seen their strength, not just in battle, but in their ability to endure. The question wasn't whether humanity could fight. The question was whether they could create something new from the ashes. Across the galaxy, the survivors of Earth began to come together. They were scattered, alone, hiding on distant colonies and forgotten worlds. But now, with the Zorvans defeated and their empire in ruins, the humans saw a chance to build a future. It wasn't easy. The scars of the past were too deep. Many still mourned the loss of Earth. Some could not imagine a life without the world they had once called home. But others saw it differently. They saw this moment as an opportunity, not just to survive, but to thrive. The first human settlement on Trellis 4, where Elena had stood before the memorial wall, began to flourish. People from different backgrounds, different worlds, came together, united by a single purpose: to rebuild what had been lost. Earth could never be restored, but the lessons it had taught them would guide them forward. "They've made a mistake," Ishan muttered. "The Krill thought themselves untouchable. Now they will learn how wrong they were." Another elder spoke, their voice like the whisper of wind through trees. "And the humans? Do we make an enemy of them as well?" Ishan's eyes glowed faintly. "They are dangerous, but they are also the only ones who have shown the strength to challenge the Krill. We will not fight them yet. Let the Krill deal with them for now. But we must prepare." On the Krill flagship Farlok, Admiral Kezer stood in a dark room, watching as the stars flew past the massive warship. The damage had been extensive. The fleet was in disarray, but Kezer's eyes burned with anger. "The humans will pay for this," he swore. "We will rebuild our forces, and we will crush them. I swear it." He turned to his officers. "We need allies. We cannot do this alone. Reach out to the Xarn, the Sithara, anyone who will stand with us." A low murmur spread through the crew. The idea of alliances was something the Krill had never relied on. Their power had always been their strength. But now it was clear that things had changed. At the same time, the Xarn fleet moved through hyperspace toward Earth. Their ships, sleek and insectoid, glided silently. Inside, their leaders were deep in discussion. "Are we truly doing the right thing?" one of the younger officers asked. Zorvok, the Xarn officer who had first spoken to General Torres, was silent for a moment. "The Krill are too strong to face alone. We need the humans on our side. If we do not act now, we will be crushed along with them." He turned to face the officer. "We will not be weak. We will stand with humanity. And we will make sure that the Krill never rise again." Back on Earth, the moment of truth had arrived. The human fleet and the Xarn fleet were preparing to meet in orbit around Mars. It was a strange sight. Two very different species coming together in what could change the course of the galaxy forever. General Torres stood at the center of the command center as her officers worked around her. "The Xarn ships are on approach," one officer reported. Torres nodded. "Good. Let's make sure everything goes as planned." On the surface of the planet, in a hidden location, a communication from the Sithara was received. The message was brief, but clear. "We are watching. We are waiting. Do not underestimate what you've awakened." Torres looked at the message, her expression hard. The Sithara were watching. An ancient race, one that had a long history in the galaxy. But Torres didn't have time to worry about them right now. The immediate danger was the Krill. As the Xarn ships entered Earth's orbit, General Torres made her way to the meeting room. The holographic images of the Xarn leaders flickered to life. Zorvok's insectoid face appeared, the sharp angles of his head reflecting the cold light of the room. "General Torres," Zorvok said with a deep bow, "we come to stand with you. The Krill's reign is over. We will help you destroy them." Torres nodded slowly. "We welcome your help, Zorvok. But know this is humanity's war. We will fight on our terms." Zorvok's antennae twitched, and his tone was serious. "We understand, but you will need our strength if you are to win." Torres studied the alien. She had no choice but to accept their help for now, but she knew this alliance could change everything. Allies today could be enemies tomorrow. "We will make the Krill regret ever underestimating us," Torres said, "and then we will take back what is ours." Far away on the edge of the galaxy, the Cythera watched from their ancient ships. Their eyes glowed softly in the dark. "Let the humans play their game," Eshin said softly. "The time is coming when all will know that the true power lies in the hands of those who have always been here." And at that moment, the galaxy began to hold its breath. The war that had started with a single human message was now spreading across the stars. New alliances were forming, old enemies were waking, and a storm was gathering. A storm that would soon change everything. The Zorvan Empire had ruled the stars for over 100 years. They were feared, powerful, and proud. They believed no race could challenge them, not even humans. But now, something was wrong. It started with a cargo ship named Starhold. It was traveling between two major Zorvan planets, carrying food and weapons. Then, without warning, it disappeared. No signal, no call for help, just silence. The Empire sent a patrol ship to search. It also vanished. Then a third ship was sent. This time, the crew managed to send one short message before being cut off. Just 2 words. "We remember." The message spread like fire across the Zorvan network. What did it mean? Who sent it? The Empire tried to block the message, but it kept appearing, on screens, on comms, even on the walls of Zorvan stations. "We remember." At first, the Council thought it was a trick, maybe from rebels. But the attacks continued. Zorvan supply lines were being destroyed. Convoys were disappearing every day. No survivors, no wreckage. And then, finally, they saw it. A Zorvan battlecruiser named Dominance was patrolling a quiet sector when the enemy arrived. 6 ships appeared from the darkness. Silent, black, no lights, no radio signals. They moved fast, like shadows across space. The commander of the Dominance shouted, "Identify yourselves." No answer. "Stand down or be fired upon." Still silence. Then one of the black ships fired. The blue beam sliced through the Zorvan ship's shield like paper. Explosions tore through the hull. The Dominance tried to escape, but another beam hit its engines. Within 30 seconds, the great Zorvan ship was floating, dead and burning. The black ships disappeared just as fast as they came. One drone survived. It sent back video footage. When the Zorvan Council saw the ships, they were shocked. The design was clearly human, but upgraded, faster, sleeker, stronger. "These are not old Earth ships," said Admiral Gorak. "These are evolved." Panic started to spread. All across the Empire, Zorvan forces were put on alert. They tried to protect their trade routes. They called back fleets. They guarded their colonies. But it didn't matter. The human ships were everywhere and nowhere. They didn't fight for land. They didn't ask for money. They didn't speak. They just attacked. Quick, clean, and quiet. And each time, the same message was found on destroyed Zorvan screens or floating in space. "You taught us pain. Now learn it yourself." The Zorvans were angry. They were confused. But most of all, they were afraid. They had always called humans weak. But now, humans didn't look weak at all. In a hidden meeting, Emperor Vorik asked, "Where are they coming from?" "Earth is empty." No one had an answer. Then, an old Zorvan scientist stood up. His name was Carthon. He had studied human behavior for decades. "They disappeared for a reason," he said. "They knew they couldn't win against us in the past. So they vanished. They built. Out there." "Out where?" the Emperor asked. Carthon looked up. "Beyond our maps. Beyond our scanners. In the black space where no one goes." They waited. And now, they've returned. Vorik slammed his fist on the table. Why now? Carthon answered with cold eyes. Because now, they are ready. In deep space, far from any empire, a hidden human base floated quietly. Inside, Commander Mira Talon watched a hologram of Zorvan fleet routes. Targets confirmed, her officer said. Mira nodded. Make it quick. No survivors. Leave the message. The officer asked, do we respond if they try to talk? Mira's face turned hard. No, we already talked, for years. They never listened. Now, they'll feel what we felt. The human fleet prepared to strike again. And the galaxy held its breath. Because the ghosts of Earth were real, and they had come for justice.